How's it going, everybody? This is Soul Time Productions. Today, we're going to be talking about a very dangerous neighborhood called the Hard Times Gang, residing in Garden Grove. This gang is very notorious. Once again, like I said, you got to tread lightly when you walk into their neighborhood. Put some respect on their name, right? These guys are nothing to play with. Uh, First of all, I want to say much respect to your neighborhood. I'm only talking about your neighborhood regarding public knowledge, things people can find online. Uh, let's get right into it, right? So on December 1st, 2005, Reyes and Guerrero were 17 and 20 years old. Respectively, they were also members of Hard Times, a criminal street gang that claims territory in Garden Grove, including Santiago High School. That day, Reyes hit up a 16-year-old Abraham Ortega at the school by asking him what gang was he from. When Ortega replied, Santanita, a rival outfit, Reyes said, "Fuck Santanita, this is Hard Times." However, before anything further transpired, campus security showed up and defused the situation. 5 days later, shortly after school let out, the gangs crossed paths again. Santo Gomez arrived at the rear of the school with fellow Santanita members Alejandro Chavez and Danny Funes in tow. Funes crossed out some Hard Times graffiti that was on the wall and replaced it with VSN, which stands for Barrio Santanita, and the words, "Now what?" It didn't take long before the group, which soon included Ortega, drew the attention of the others. Hard Times member Juan Manzanares spotted them first. He talked to Baltasar Moreno about the situation, and the two of them tracked down Reyes, who was hanging out at the school quad with several other Hard Times members. Manzanares told Reyes about the Santanita members, who he derogatorily referred to as chonclas, and said, "We are going to get them." Manzanares, Reyes, and Moreno then set off to confront the rivals. As they made their way back to the school, Manzanares phoned Guerrero several times. He told him where the Santanita members were and urged him to bring a gun to the location. But Manzanares didn't wait for Guerrero to arrive before instigating a confrontation. With Reyes and Moreno at his side, he asked Ortega where he was from. Ortega said Santanita, and one of his companions made a gang sign with his fingers. Moreno then yelled out, "Fuck Santanita, this is Hard Times." And with that, the two groups started fighting. Santanita initially had a 4-3 advantage in terms of manpower, but Hard Times supporter Rene Garcia soon joined in to even the numbers. At one point during the fight, someone from Hard Times said something like, "Where the fuck is Abel?" Then Guerrero, whose nickname is Evil, and fellow Hard Times member Armando Solano came running up to the scene. Guerrero was holding a gun, and upon seeing him, the four Santanita members retreated to Gomez's nearby jeep. As they started to drive away, Solano told Guerrero not to do it here, but someone else yelled, "Dump on them." At that point, Guerrero fired several shots at the jeep, one of which struck and killed Ortega. Gang expert Jonathan Wainwright testified to the rivalry between Hard Times and Santanita, describing them as turf-oriented Hispanic street gangs. He also described the criminal activities of Hard Times, explaining the gang members often commit acts of violence to include fear and achieve respect in the community. Based on the circumstances of this case, Wainwright believed Reyes acted in association with and for the benefit of Hard Times. In fact, he said Reyes' actions were indicative of a classic gang hit-up, which ultimately ended in a homicide. Reyes, Guerrero, Moreno, Garcia, Manzanares, and Solano were jointly charged with first-degree murder, 3 counts of attempted premeditated murder, shooting at an occupied vehicle, shooting in the school zone, and street terrorism. Gang and firearm enhancements were also charged, as was the special circumstance allegation that defendants initially committed the murder while they were active participants in and to further the activities of a criminal street gang. Before trial, Moreno and Garcia pleaded guilty to manslaughter. Reyes, Guerrero, and Solano were then jointly tried, and Manzanares was tried separately. Solano was only convicted of street terrorism, but Reyes and Guerrero and Manzanares were convicted as charged and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. All day, man. One in a gangbang, and now they're gone all day, man. Very deadly situation. Like I said, there's no point to live your life just disrespecting people, because one day you're going to meet the right one, And it's gonna be all over, you know. And for what? Just an ego battle, you know. That's all it was, just an ego battle, you know. Writing on walls that don't even belong to you, you know. That's disrespectful, right? And so I got another. Oh sure, I got another article. And please, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe to my channel if you want. If not, I ain't tripping, right? So, we have a situation where Briceno and Evaristo Landin robbed 4 individuals in Orange County on Christmas Day on the year 2000, and what the California Court of Appeal aptly characterized as a Grinchly crime wave. The two gained little from their criminal forays. Both were members of the Hard Time Street Gang, and Landin's forearms were marked with the gang's tattoos. Their first victim was Ross Lambert, whom they held at gunpoint outside a bar in Costa Mesa at about 1 a.m. Lambert gave them the $10.50 he had in his pocket, and he felt a sharp object placed against his neck when they demanded more. Lambert apparently had no more to give, and the two thieves drove away in a Cadillac, whose license plate Lambert recorded before contacting the police. About an hour and a half later, Richard Jess noticed a parked sedan with its headlights on as he was walking through a Comfort Inn parking lot. Landon approached him from the rear, put his arm around Jess's neck, stuck a gun in his ribs, and demanded his valuables. Landon was able to extricate only $2 from Jess. During this time, the sedan was moving forward slowly in an adjoining parking lot. After the stocking cap and designer jeans After the encounter, Jess saw Landon, who was wearing a stocking cap and designer jeans, run over to enter the sedan. Within the hour, Jody Yonamin arrived at her residence in Garden Grove. As she unloaded some items from the trunk of her car, another car pulled up and stopped with its headlights on and its engine still running. Landon emerged from the front passenger side and asked for money, when Yonamin said she had none. Landon produced a gun and took her wallet, which contained $25. Landon then ran back to the car, which sped away. Soon thereafter, Landon approached Jesus Mendoza, who was unloading his van in Anaheim. Mendoza gave up his wallet and $18 in cash when Landon pointed a pistol at him. Landon was in the passenger seat and Briceno was behind the wheel when Anaheim officer Raymond Drebeck stopped the Cadillac sedan in which they were traveling as it made a U-turn on Harbor Boulevard near Disneyland. The car and license plate numbers matched the description provided by the robbery victims. Discovered under the front passenger seat were $300 in cash and a pellet gun. A beanie cap identified by one of the victims as worn by one of the perpetrators was found in the Cadillac, and a small amount of cash was found on both Landon and Briceno. This one doesn't tell us the consequences of that, but pretty sure you could already imagine what they're gonna get. You know, it's all fun and games, but you know, everybody's got a day, man. Got to do right. So, defendant and Corbin Dennis had both been members of the Hard Times criminal street gang for many years. Hard Times' primary activities included homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, robbery, and illegal weapon possession. Hard Times claimed the neighborhood between Buena Street and Clinton Street, nicknamed the Buena Clinton area. Santa Anita was a rival gang. It claimed the territory just south of Hard Times territory. One day of the incident, defendant armed himself with a semi-automatic handgun. He and Dennis jumped the fence from the Buena Clinton area and entered a border area separating Hard Times territory and Santa Anita territory. The area consisted of abandoned railroad tracks and rock piles. Matthew Granados, David Hernandez, and Vicente Salcedo, all in their late teens, were sitting on one of the rock piles. Defendant and Dennis approached them, identifying themselves as hard time members, and asked where they were from, which is gang speak for what gang do you belong to. All three denied any gang affiliations. Granados stood up and walked toward Defendant and Dennis. Defendant and Dennis asked again where he was from. Granados responded, "We don't claim anybody. If you're going to shoot us, shoot us." Defendant pointed his gun at Granados and fired 5 or 4 times, striking Granados in the shoulder and both legs. After Granados fell to the ground, Defendant turned and fired 3 or 4 shots at Hernandez and Salcedo. As Salcedo was running away, he heard a bullet strike a tree next to him. Defendant and Dennis ran back to Hard Times territory. In making their escape, Defendant and Dennis jumped the fence, headed up a trail. They encountered 3 boys in their mid-teens and robbed them at gunpoint. George Kaser testified as a gang expert. He said gang members who commit crimes gain respect. Respect is huge in the gang lifestyle. A more violent or serious crime would increase a gang member's reputation. The phrase "putting in work" is a street term for committing crimes to benefit the gang and could include going into a rival's neighborhood and going and doing a shooting. A hit-up is asking a person what gang or neighborhood he or she belongs to. If the person responds he or she is from a rival gang or neighborhood, the gang member who asked the question is required to engage in a fight or shooting, or be considered to have ranked out. Ranking out is not standing up for your gang and is considered disrespectful. And in response to a hypothetical question, based on the facts in this case, Kaser opened the shooting would benefit Hard Times. He said it benefits the Hard Times gang by a projection of turf. It's a tested gang area, a border area, if you will, between rival gangs, he explained. Control of the turf or the area is important to criminal street gangs. The production of the handgun is a projection of power, also control and intimidation. Again, a power and control issue for the turf since that area is a rival's area. The shooting benefits the gang because they have already identified themselves as being Hard Times. So anyone present at the event now knows who committed the shooting, who has the power, and who's willing to commit a serious crime to project the power and control. You know? That's all it is, man, you know? It's crazy times, man. You gotta be aware of your surroundings, you know? Don't just be kicking it out there, thinking everything's gonna be all good when you know it's a gang area, you know? If you don't claim, you know, tread lightly, you know, show your respect and just keep moving, you know? So on August 27, 2007, just after midnight, Oliver Martinez and Michelle Miller were shot dead. Only moments after they had misfortune in encountering Ramirez Armendariz Menchaca and Ramirez's girlfriend Diana Estrada. Earlier in the evening, Menchaca, who was 18 at the time, met up with Ramirez and Armendariz, both age 16, at the home of another friend. All 3 of them, along with 2 other males who were also present in the home, were members of a gang known as Down Crowd. Armendariz, who was left-handed, had a cast on his left hand. That evening, as a result of breaking several fingers in a fall from his bicycle, during the visit, they passed around a .38 caliber gang gun. After which Ramirez put it in his pocket. The group then went to the home of a different friend where they consorted for a while before Menchaca, Ramirez, Armendariz, and Estrada decided to walk to a restaurant and get some food. As the group walked over a freeway overpass, Menchaca saw a man and a woman, Martinez and Miller, walking onto the overpass behind them. Menchaca stopped and pretended to tie his shoe while the others waited, so that the man and woman would pass them. As they passed, Menchaca recognized the man as a member of Crow Village, a rival gang. After the couple passed, Menchaca said to the others, "Let's go hit him up," which means to ask what gang they belong to. The group then approached Martinez and Miller, and Menchaca called out, "Hey," to get their attention. When Martinez turned around, Menchaca asked him if he had a lighter. At this point, Ramirez was standing next to Menchaca, while Armendariz and Estrada were standing approximately a foot behind them. Martinez then responded, "Aren't you that pussy from Dick Cravers?" using a derogatory term for Down Crowd. to convey disrespect. Menchaca replied, "Fuck Crow." Ramirez pulled out the 38 and shot Martinez, then Miller, and then shot Martinez again multiple times. Both Martinez and Miller were killed. Menchaca, Ramirez, Armendariz, and Estrada all ran back across the overpass. And while they ran, Estrada called a friend to come pick them up. Menchaca told Ramirez to give him the expended rounds from the gun, and he then dug a hole in the dirt and buried them. While Menchaca was doing that, Ramirez reloaded the gun, and the four of them walking while they waited for their friend to arrive. Just about the time their friend arrived, a police car drove up. The officer inside trained his searchlight on the group and told them to stop. Menchaca and Armendariz ran, although Armendariz stopped for a moment next to a parked car and hid the 38 under one of its tires. Ramirez and Estrada remained where they were, although the officer saw Ramirez throw something. I thought this was going to be my bad, guys. I thought this was going to be a hard times case, but it wasn't. It's all good, though. More good stories, right? So, the next article goes, appellants are members of Hard Times, a criminal street gang whose enemies included the Santa Anita gang. Members of both gangs attended Santiago High School. One day, Reyes hit up Abraham Ortega at the school by asking him what gang he was in. When Ortega replied Santa Anita, Reyes said, "Fuck Santa Anita, this is Hard Times." Although verbal jousting between gang members often leads to violence, in this instance, campus security showed up and nothing came of it. Oh, I think I already read this one. Oh, I did. My bad. Okay. Injunction against Hard Times. A violent Garden Grove street gang. Permanent injunction against Hard Times, a violent Garden Grove street gang. The injunction bans, among the other things, two friends sitting at a park bench if they also happen to be active members of the gang, even if they have not been convicted of any crimes. John Anderson, Orange County Assistant District Attorney, said, "Are their constitutional rights implicated? Of course. There are always constitutional rights implicated in any restraining order." According to a statement released by the Orange County District Attorney's Office, a gang injunction is a civil order that restricts or prohibits documented gang members from participating in specific acts or activities that may not be inherently criminal. The terms are designed to curb intimidating or harassing behavior. If a member of an enjoined gang violates the terms, he or she will be arrested and face prosecution. The case may be prosecuted as a misdemeanor for disobeying to a court order, and the defendant will be placed on gang probation terms and sent to jail for up to 6 months. The gang injunction subjects all active documented members to prohibited terms, including a restriction that prohibits any association between gang members. Association includes standing, sitting, walking, driving, bicycling, gathering, or appearing anywhere in public or public view by any known member of the gang, except while at school or in church. You know, that reminds me of that video I made about Los Angeles fight on gangs. And the way they fought gangs was through gentrification, or making injunctions in the neighborhoods, you know, and they forced the gangs to go indoors instead of being outdoors how they used to be, you know. And in a sense, it is safer because, you know, there's not gang members outside, but in a sense it could be dangerous too because now you don't know what the gang members is doing, you know. They're just inside their home, you know. I mean, either way, gang banging has kind of died out. It has caught its little flame here and there where people want to go back to it, and all I would want to say, man, is just stay away from all that. There's no point. Why involve your family, your friends in a battle where anybody could get hit? You know, women could get hit just for saying the wrong things, you know. And, you know, women are women, you know. Like, sometimes that's how they are, you know. They're going to talk masa. You know, and let's live every day better, man. Let's try to do better as a people. Let's educate our youngsters. Stop the manipulation of the youngsters' minds making them think it's cool to belong to a gang. There's nothing cool about it. I've never heard of someone becoming super successful, being a gang member. You either end up in prison or you end up dead, and everybody knows that. But for some reason, no one cares. They want to participate in those activities. To each his own. Much respect for the people that do it. Much respect. I grew up with homies that were banging, that were doing their thing. Much respect. I've had homies die for their neighborhood. Rest in peace to the homies. It's time to move forward from this, man. And let's do better as a people, Much love. Have a good night, mi gente.
Tell me what I feel.